I think it's going to speak to a lot of us. Just the season of life that a lot of us are in right now, a lot of you guys that are in. So the title for tonight is this, for any of you guys who are taking notes, is that we are better together. We're better together. Any golf fans out there? I know Carrie and Jason Taylor, I know they're golf fans. Any golf fans? None of y'all? You're college, so you're like, I'm broke, I can't afford golf and stuff. Trace, we know you're breaking clubs, you know you're not no good. So like, I'm not really a golfer, okay? I'm not really a golfer, personally really don't like golf. I find it very frustrating, even just to do 9 holes, I think it's very exhausting, it's frustrating. So one day, for some weird reason, I was like, you know what, I think I'm a golfer. So I figured I was gonna, I didn't even have my own clubs, okay? So I had this guy, he had to give me a set of clubs, and they were the most ratchet clubs you ever seen. I mean, they were janky. They were trash, man. They were the type of clubs that when you held on to the grip would leave all this black stuff on your hands. So I had to go and buy like white gloves. And by the end of one round of golf, man, one round, the white gloves were completely black. It was terrible. It was the worst clubs ever, man. So you know you're not good when you don't even have your own set of clubs. So anyways, one day, I'm in Florida. Like, it's a pretty day. Like, man, I'm going to go play by myself. I'm going to go play. Let me just see what I can do. Well, I started playing, and I'm going to just tell y'all right now, it did not go well. So, I mean, I'm getting super frustrated because I'm slicing every ball for any of y'all who know golf and stuff. And now I'm doing all these mulligans. If y'all know what a mulligan is, pretty much it's giving you a cop-out for cheating. So what I'm doing, ain't nobody looking. You know, I'm not playing with anybody. So I'm like, oh, mulligan, I'm dropping the ball, or I'm chucking the ball, you know, like 50 yards down. I'm running and going and getting it so I can get closer to the hole. I mean, I'm telling you right now, in my mind, I scored like a 72. Realistically, I probably got like a 120. Okay, so I wasn't doing very good. But here's the thing. Golf is so much better, so they say. Golf is so much better whenever you do it with other people, because those other people make it better, and they honestly just make it more enjoyable and more fun. Golf is a sport that's just more enjoyed whenever it's participated with other people. So what we're talking about tonight is how we're better together, and there are a few other things that we enjoy in this life that honestly, they're just flat out just better together. I mean, look at this one right here. Look at this one. This one's going to be some PB&J, all right? PB&J. Y'all got me? I mean, look at the proportion of the peanut butter and the jelly on there. Y'all see that? Now, let me just tell you right now, that's a healthy PB&J. I would even recommend adding some more peanut butter. My wife already knows this, okay? Because sometimes she'll take a piece of toast. Aaron, I'm sorry, but I don't know where you are, but I just got to say this. She'll take a piece of toast, and she would just lightly smear some peanut butter and jelly on it. That ain't no, that's peanut butter and jelly toast. That's not a sandwich, okay? I'm sitting there, I'm like, the one time she made it for me, she gave it to me, I said, what is this? She goes, peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I said, that is not a sandwich. I said, no. I said, come here, let me show you. Guys, don't do that, okay? Don't do that. I had to learn that one. You know, but that's healthy one. What's the next one? Next one is this. Jim and Pam. Any Office fans? My wife and I love The Office. Jim and Pam, they're just better together. Not with Roy, not with Karen. They're better together. Next one. The Beauty and the Beast. Now, here's the funny thing. I bet you there's some dudes in here. Y'all seen that new movie. Y'all seen the new Beauty and Beast. You know what I'm saying? You might even, it's on Netflix too. Some of y'all, you might even watch it just chilling in your dorm room or at your house. You're like, hey, ain't nobody around. I just want to see what the buzz is about it. So y'all, okay, they're better together. And maybe some of you ladies, you're looking for your Beast. You know what? Let's just go to the next one. You know what I'm saying? Let's go to the next one. One Direction. Come on. See, you don't know that you're beautiful. Did I get that right? Hey, D, when can I lead worship? I want to go up there. I'm going to sing a little bit, okay? I promise. I got melody. One Direction. Good night. Look how young they look, man. I'll tell you, the old music, that was the good stuff, okay? When they fell apart, it's not One Direction. They're going in like 5 different directions. Who knows what direction they're going in? Okay, but that was the good stuff right there, is when One Direction, all those things I just listed and plenty more, they're just better together. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to the Western society, we view ourselves as individualistic. We don't see everything. We don't see ourselves as part of a community base. We look at ourselves as individuals, not as a part of a community. And so that's a very different mindset that we're going to look at tonight. And what I mean is, when I'm talking about being individualistic and not community-based, is we are more worried about our individuality. We're more worried about our ambitions, our goals, our success. And we don't want that to be at the expense or the sacrifice for the bettering of a community, of a group, or a team. For many of us, we're not going to sacrifice our ambitions and our goals for the sake of trying to better the team or the group. And that's what I mean whenever we're talking about individualistic. We are more focused on ourselves than we are sometimes the community. And Christianity is personal, but it's not individualistic. Christianity is personal, but it's not individualistic. It's corporate, and it's actually community-based. And in this community, you will see personal growth. Starbucks, I think Starbucks is a really interesting business model. I don't know if any of y'all work at Starbucks or you have worked at Starbucks, but one thing that Starbucks strives for is for their employees to see the fact that they are a part of a community, that they're part of something bigger than themselves. They do not just sell coffee. They don't want them to see that. You do not just sell coffee. You are a part of a community that is impacting the greater community around you. Check out this video real quick.
We're not just employees of Starbucks. I mean, we are Starbucks.
Being a Starbucks partner means everything to me. It's the connection, the people. It's all about my customers.
Our customers leave marks on our hearts and our minds, and hopefully we do the same to them.
I consider my partners at my store pretty much my second family.
Being my personal best means listening to my partners and responding in a way that makes their day.
There's opportunity for partners to expand beyond what they currently do.
Opportunity at Starbucks means knowing that there's always an area for growth.
The benefit package is very important to me, whether it's our stock program.
Medical, dental, vision.
The fact that it's available for people who work only part-time is just amazing.
It's not just about selling coffee, it's about being involved in the community.
Every time there is a community event going on, I am the first one to sign up.
Being a partner, that's not just a word. It's a real sense of ownership. I've had so many opportunities to grow, and I've felt nurtured in that partnership.
If you want to be part of something really big, this is the place to do it.
Interesting, the fact that they're not selling coffee, they're selling an experience that anyone who comes and works for them, that they are going to be a part of something bigger than themselves. In other words, pretty much what you just heard from that video is the fact that they're saying, hey, guess what? We are better together. We're better together. Now, what about Christians? What about Christ followers? Are we actually better together? Are we better together? For a Christ follower, is it actually important for you to be a part of a local community, or as what we're talking about, like a church? Is it really important for you to be a part of that? Do you really see the fact that, man, being a part of this is being better together? We're actually going to be looking at the book of Acts. So if you guys have your Bibles, and I'm always going to encourage you guys, bring your Bible. If you have a copy of God's Word, bring it, all right? We're going to be in the book of Acts. Book of Acts is the New Testament. For any of you guys, whenever I first became a Christian, I didn't know where any books of the Bible were. So they'd be like, turn to John. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know where it is. I had this little old lady, she would like lean over to me because she saw me like thumbing through the Old Testament. And she'd be like, oh, no, let me show you where it is. So for any of you guys got to look at the table of contents. There's no shame. Where you got your phone, you could always pull it out there. But we're going to be in the book of Acts. We're going to be in Acts chapter 2. So if you guys want to pull it up there and hold your place there. But let me give you a little bit of context about the book of Acts. The book of Acts is a sequel. So some of y'all like sequels to movies. Some of y'all like sequels to books. Well, this is the same sense. It's a guy named Luke, and Luke wrote the book of Acts. And he wrote the gospel of Luke, and what it was he was gathering all this evidence for Jesus' life, Jesus' death, and his resurrection, and he wanted to validate that. So he wrote the gospel of Luke as he did extensive research to get all of that information for that. And then what the book of Acts is, it's the continuation of the story now. And so what he's doing as he's writing this book is he's going on and he's seeing the accounts of how Christianity started small and how it became a worldwide movement. And so that's kind of like the broad theme of the book of Acts. And we're going to look at how we see, we're actually going to look at one of the first recording of the gatherings of Christians and what it is that they did. It's a real famous passage for any of you guys who've been involved with your Bibles a lot and knowing this. It's a really interesting passage, though, of talking about the early church. And we're going to see how they valued being just kind of the theme of being better together. So we're going to start in verse 41. And verse 41 says this, Acts 2:41. Those who believed what Peter said, they were baptized, and they were added to the church that day, about 3,000 in all. So here's what's kind of interesting. So Peter stands up. Peter, he was a follower of Jesus. He was an eyewitness to all the things that Jesus did, his life, his death, his resurrection. And then as Jesus ascends back up to heaven, now they are given the task to keep it going. So this is one of the first sermons, if not the first sermon. And so Peter, he stands up and he gives a sermon, and roughly it was probably more than 3,000 people, but 3,000 people ended up responding to his message. So now they're like, yes, I want to become a Christ follower. So then they end up becoming Christ followers, and here's what's really interesting. Verse 41 leads directly into verse 42. So look at this. I want you guys to see this because it's so cool when you see verse 42. That those 3,000, you know what they did immediately? So many times I've seen this happen. People will make a decision to follow Jesus, or they get baptized, and then you never see them again. You know what the 3,000 who ended up accepting Christ and they end up becoming followers? Look at what they did immediately after they made that decision. Look at verse 42. Now, all the believers, what do you mean all the believers? Well, the 3,000, including some others as well. All the believers. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship and to sharing in meals, including the Lord's Supper, and to prayer. Man, they got together for Bible studies. They would get together for Bible studies. And so the apostles were teaching them about Jesus' life, Jesus' teaching, his death, and his resurrection. So pretty much what they were doing was saying that, hey, Jesus, by the way, he was the fulfillment of the hundreds of Old Testament prophecies that pointed to Jesus. All these prophecies that were written hundreds of years before Jesus ever came that depicted him exactly, the life and the death and the resurrection that would occur. It happened exactly the way it was promised. Jesus fulfilled that with pinpoint accuracy. It's amazing. So they're going back and they're teaching that. And so they're teaching now, this is what it looks like to be a Christ follower. So when they got together, they did Bible studies. The next thing that they did is fellowship. Now, fellowship, all that means is community. They get together, they did life together. You know, it's so many times we see Christianity as an event. They never saw Christianity as an event. They saw it as a gathering. They saw it as community. They saw it as doing life together. They didn't see it as it's a Monday night. Oh, it's a Sunday morning. They didn't see it as that. Man, they saw it as an opportunity to get together and do life together. That's the way that they viewed it. I mean, think about it. They went to ball games together. You know what I'm saying? They went to ball games. I don't know if they actually went to ball games together. They went to ball games. They went to movies together. They did life together. The next thing that they did is they shared meals. They went out and they ate with each other. They went out and shared meals. They probably had older people invite them over to their homes, and they enjoyed dinner in a game night. I don't know, whatever kind of games that they did, who knows? But they enjoyed life together. They shared meals together. It's crucial. The next thing that they did is to prayer. They prayed for each other. They prayed for each other. They prayed for their community. And they prayed for their friends to also come to know Jesus as well. They were a praying community. What are we known for? Are we known for being a praying community? If people even talked about C2, would they ever identify us, the ones who gather, would they identify us as a praying company? Now let me say this, a community. Let me just say this. You may not be a Christ follower in here, and I want you to know that's okay, and guess what? You are completely welcome here. You don't need to believe all the things that we believe. I want y'all to be very clear on that. You don't need to. You are absolutely welcome here. Because guess what? There were many people who did not agree with the message that the early Christians were talking about and the early Christians were living by. But you know what the people did respect? The people respected their community. The people respected the way that they lived their lives. The people also saw all the things that they did, and they wanted to be a part of that. You don't need to agree with everything, but you are more than welcome here. And that's exactly what they did as well. But here's the thing. They were a praying community. They were a praying community. Verse 43. A deep sense of awe came over them all. And the apostles performed many miracles and miraculous signs and wonders. And all the believers, they met together in one place. They shared everything they had. They sold their property and their possessions, and they shared the money with those in need. Pretty much all he's saying right there, when he's writing this down, they had extreme generosity towards each other. There was nobody in need. It doesn't mean that they sold everything they had. They sold some stuff just to make sure that they took care of one another. The early Christians took care of each other. Man, they looked out for one another. That was a big deal to them. They really did. And so that's what he's talking about there when he's saying all those things that they did. Man, they were just demonstrated extreme generosity towards each other. Verse 46. And they worshiped together at the temple each day, They met in homes for the Lord's Supper, and they shared meals with great joy and generosity. All the while, they were praising God and enjoying the goodwill of all people. And each day, the Lord added to their fellowship those who were being saved. We are better together. We're better together. I hear from people who are professing Christ followers, say they're Christ followers. I hear this all the time is the question of, why should I come to church? Maybe you wrestle with that. Maybe if you're like, I don't get it. What's the big deal? Why do I need to come to church? Why do I need to be in a small group? Every Monday when I come here, all I do is I hear you guys talk about a small group. I hear about all this small group stuff and why it's important and all of that. I don't understand that. I don't understand that. Because here's the deal. I can go to my home and I can experience God. I could be in my dorm room and experience God. I could be in my apartment and experience God. I don't need to be at a church. Maybe any of you guys ever felt that way? Like, why do I need to come? I can do that right there. Guess what? You can. You know that? You can experience that. But you'll never experience the fullness that God has for you, and you'll never experience all of that unless it's done together. You'll never experience the fullness of God unless it's done together. See, God, this is I think this is so important, that God never intended for you to do the Christian life on your own. He never intended for you to do the Christian life on your own. So many times, and I fell victim to this so many times, y'all, so many times. I'm like, I don't need nobody. I'm good. I don't need anybody. And I don't know if that's how you feel, but I realize that those are the moments I never grew as much as I felt like I should have in my faith. The times that I grew the most in my faith was when I was involved in community. And so that's the same thing for a lot of us. We try to do it on our own. And I want you to know that God never intended for you to do the Christian life on your own. And you will never grow in your faith apart from community. Community is essential for you to grow in your faith. Another thing is, did you know that God, he intended his word to be studied together? Now, I know the fact, like for some of us, like, well, I need to do my time with God alone. But let me just say this. He intended his word, what we're talking about the Bible, he intended his word to be studied together. That's what he intended. Because look at many of the instances throughout, and you see this even with the early believers. What did they do? They got together and did what? I mean, they studied it together. Maybe some of you feel apathetic and cold in your faith right now. Maybe it's because you're not involved in any type of community. Maybe it's because you're not involved in any Bible study right now. Maybe that's how it is for you. And I tell you this, when you get involved in a community who's doing Bible studies and they're doing life together, you will, I promise you, you will grow faster and deeper in your faith with God than you ever have before. You really will. And some of the greatest movements of God, truly some of the greatest movements, they have been done through a local group of Christians who got together and they did the things that we're reading about. I think it's so important. They studied their Bibles together. They did life together. They enjoyed meals together, and they prayed for each other. They prayed for each other. So important, because the Christian life is better together. Look at verse 46. They worshiped together at the temple each day. They met in homes for the Lord's Supper, and they shared meals with great joy and generosity. Leave that up there. Check this out. I think it's really cool. They worshiped together at the temple each day, and they also met in homes. So I hear from people sometimes that people say, well, I'm involved in a small group, therefore I don't need to go to church. Or, you know what, man, I'm involved in church, but I don't want to be involved in a small group. You notice the cool thing about them, the early church, they did both. They met together in large groups for worship, what we're doing tonight, and then guess what? They also did small groups. They did both. I think it's so interesting that they did both. Verse 47, all the while, they were praising God and enjoying the goodwill of all the people. And each day the Lord added to their fellowship or their community those who were being saved. They weren't judgmental Christians. Y'all ever met them? Y'all know what I'm talking about? Them judgmental Christians? At some point, if you are a Christian in here, at some point, we've probably all done that. I know I have at times before in my life too. But they weren't judgmental Christians. They weren't. They had so much excitement that God poured out his grace and his forgiveness in their life that all they could do is want to go out and share it with other people. They weren't consumed with everybody else's sin and everybody else's struggle. They were so in awe that God literally showered his grace upon their life, so undeserving and not willing at all. And here he goes and he lavishes upon them. Man, they weren't worried about everyone else. They wanted other people to come experience that. They wanted other people to come experience it. Therefore, they weren't judgmental Christians. I think that's one reason why it said that they had favor with all people. I think that all people are like, you know what? I don't like the message that you guys are talking about. Maybe you're in here like, I don't like the message of Christians. But one thing that you can't deny is the fact is that so many people involved in their community, they respected them. They may not have liked their message. They may not have agreed with it. But they respected it, and they respected their lifestyle as well because they weren't judgmental Christians. And they shared all this. They shared what God had done in their lives with other people. Are you sharing what God has done in your life with other people? Or are you more consumed with all your struggles? You look at all your sin. Instead of you're looking at the Savior and you'd be like, oh my gosh, look at what he's done in my life. Man, I'm not where I want to be, but look at where I've come from. I want to share this with other people. Christianity, listen to me very clearly. Christianity is not about perfection. The perfection was already done whenever Jesus died on the cross. He already handled our perfection. So it's not about you and it's not about me being perfect. Christianity is not based on that. That's a false conception of what Christianity is. It's not about perfection because he is the perfect one. And that's the one that we trust in. It's his perfection, not ours. It's his perfection, not yours. Let me explain to you like this, because especially when it comes to sharing our faith, I know for many of us, sometimes we get real nervous when it comes to this. All right, so picture this. Let me say it like this. Picture that I'm an extremely, extremely rich man. Some of y'all are like, let me just tell you, I am not a rich man by any stretch of the means. But just picture I'm in a very, very rich, affluent man, and also I'm very generous. And so, you know what, y'all? I just want you to say, I'm being very generous tonight. Okay, I'm being very generous. Every single one of you in here, every single one of y'all, I just bought each and every one of you guys a brand new $100,000 Mercedes. Brand new $100,000 Mercedes. Some of y'all are like, what? Yeah, it's in the parking lot. It's fun. Picture this. If I came up to you and I handed you the keys to a brand new $100,000 Mercedes, I said, it's a gift. Not because you're a good person, not because of anything about you, nothing about you at all. Just because I'm rich and just because, I'm a generous person. I feel like doing it. I would love to give you this. You have to accept it, right? Otherwise, it's not a gift, right? You got to accept it. So let's say now you're like, absolutely, let me accept that. How pumped would you be that you just got a brand new $100,000 Mercedes? Some of y'all right now, you're like, man, I'd be bumping Drake. I'd have the Bose system turned up, windows down. I'd let everybody know I got a brand new $100,000 Mercedes, yo. You would be excited. How excited would you be? You would be ecstatic, man. You would be so pumped and telling everyone, you got to come experience my brand new Mercedes that I just got. Why is it then whenever some of us in here, or for those of us who put our faith in God, why is it that God, rich in mercy, rich in grace, lavishes his grace upon us, and now we have a new life, not just a new car, we have a new life, and we don't want to share it? Nah, I don't want other people to experience the new life that I just have. Oh, but if we had a brand new $100,000 Mercedes, right? We want everybody to come experience that. But then we have a new life in Jesus that God literally, not because you're deserving, not because you're a good person, not because I'm a good person, not because of any of that. And literally he lavishes his grace upon us, and then we don't want to share that? Why is that? Why don't we want other people to experience that? I think it's so important. And I believe this. If you see this with the early Christians, they experienced the awe and the wonder of God in their midst. They experienced the awe and the wonder of God in their midst. I think it's because, sometimes, as I was pondering this, I was like, why don't we experience, y'all ever wonder that? Why don't we experience the awe and the wonder of God in our midst? Could it be that maybe we could? That we actually could experience the awe and the wonder of God in ways that we can't even fathom. Maybe we actually could experience it right here in Odessa, right here at C2, that we could actually experience it if we lived like these early Christians lived. Well, how did they live? They cared for one another. They loved one another. They encouraged one another. They built up one another. They didn't tear each other down. And guess what? They also wanted other people to come experience the very thing that they have experienced. We could be experiencing what they experienced by doing the things they did. Y'all see that? We really could. I believe that with all my heart. I really do. I think that we could be experiencing what they experienced by doing the things they did. Because we're better together. Hebrews 10, 24 and 25 says this. And then I'm almost finished. Let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works. And let us not neglect meeting together, as some people do. Do you see the fact that he's saying, hey, meeting together is really, really important. Don't neglect it. This, the large group getting together, and the small group, both of those. Don't neglect that, because it's very important. It's very important for your personal walk, but also you are a contributor to the large group, and you're also a contributor to the small group. So don't neglect meeting together. But encourage one another, especially now that the day of his returning, Jesus' returning, is drawing near. We weren't made to do it alone. We were made to do it alone. So here's some application points for you guys. Maybe for some of you guys, tonight is your night to really get involved in a small group. Man, some of y'all, you've been playing games and you're like, I don't see the value of a small group, and I really don't. And so you don't ever want to do it. You see it every time as an opportunity. The moment that we get up, you bounce. And then you wonder maybe why you're dry, or maybe why you're apathetic, or why you're cold in your faith. And what I would say to you is this. I don't know all the reasoning, but I can tell you right now, when you're involved in good community, man, I'm telling you, there's something that just sparks a fire in your spirit. So maybe for you, tonight is your night for you to really get involved in a small group. And let me say something to the ladies real quick. Girls, I don't completely understand this, but I'll say that I've at least heard this, that it's harder for you to get involved in a small group for fear of judgment and fear of maybe just what somebody might think of you if you decide to open up. And so maybe you get involved in a small group, and what do? Instead of letting a wall down, you build a wall up, because you might look at another girl and you're like, I don't trust her, therefore I don't want to share anything, because I don't know if she's going to use that as ammunition against me. Maybe some of you guys have actually felt that. Therefore, you shut down a small group and you don't see the value of a small group. And let me say this. This is not the place for judgment. I'm very serious about this. This is not the place for that. This is the place for any of us, because guess what? Every single one of us is broken. Man, even the dude up here, let me tell y'all right now, I struggle with sin too. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the means. Just because I'm up here does not mean that at all. Man, it's only by God's grace. Y'all feel me? I want you guys to understand that this place right here is judgment-free zone. This is an opportunity for you to just let down your walls and not have to fear judgment in this place. I want the groups to be able to be an opportunity for other people to open up and be like, man, I feel welcome here. I don't have all my stuff together. You don't need to have all your stuff together. And so ladies as well, be encouraging, be loving, be kind. Affirm each other when each of you shares something in your group. 1 John 4:7 says this. Dear friends, let us love one another, because love is from God, and everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. The way you love people is a reflection of how well you know God. The way you love people is a reflection of how well you know God. And for the guys, some of y'all, you flat out, you might just see small group. It's pointless. It's stupid. You're like, I don't get it. I don't really want to be a part of it. I don't see the value of it. And I do. I understand that. I really do. I understand that. But let me say this. You can experience tremendous growth in your personal walk if you get involved in a small group and you get involved in a Bible study and you get connected for a group. Maybe for others of you, maybe for some of you right now, it's time for you to start a Bible study at your school. It's time for you to start a small group or a Bible study with a group of friends, with some people that you work with. Maybe now is your time that you're like, you know what? I feel like now's my time. You don't need to be a know-it-all. Just pick a book of the Bible, pick Ephesians, pick Philippians, pick something that's a little simpler to work through, and get together, pick a few friends and be like, hey, y'all want to start a Bible study? Let's start a Bible study. And watch and see how God blesses that obedience. And watch and see when you start inviting other people to come experience that, and you order some pizzas at your dorm rooms and you're just chilling, or over at your house and you just invite some friends or some coworkers over, watch and see how God moves in a tremendous way just because you took a step of obedience. And maybe for some of you in here, you've never really experienced this type of community because you've never trusted in Jesus for your salvation. You notice the 3,000 up there? 3,000 people that we talked about, the first verse in 41. The moment that they heard the message, some of you right now, you're like, I know I've never accepted Jesus. I know I've never accepted him. Maybe tonight is your night. And I really believe that. That maybe you've been just playing games with God. And maybe you've just been playing the whole church and religion thing. And God's not into that. God's into you making a personal decision about what his son has already done for you. Is that you tonight? Don't play games with God. Is that you where you're like, you know what? Tonight is the night that I need to give my life to Jesus. And I need to make it public. You don't be scared of that. Just like in the same sense, if I handed you the keys to a brand new $100,000 Mercedes, you'd be telling everyone. But what about if the King of Glory, literally the God of the universe, showers tons of grace and forgiveness on your life? Why in the world will we be shy about that? Why would we be shy about that? So maybe for tonight, it's your time. You're like, you know what? I need to accept Jesus. And maybe you share it with one of your leaders, or maybe you share it with me or someone else, and you share it tonight that I've accepted Jesus as my Savior, and I want to tell somebody about it. Let's pray. Father, I pray for anyone in here. I know that when we're talking about community, I know that it can almost just sound like just a message, and then we bounce, and then there's no change in here. And I just ask tonight that you would literally cultivate change in our hearts, that we would crave to be involved in community, that we would desperately want to be involved and see the awe and the wonder of you move in this place. I believe it with all of my heart that we could see it if we did what the early Christians did. And what'd they do? And they cared for each other. They did Bible studies together. They shared meals together. They went into each other's homes and had fun, but they didn't just stay together. They went out and they shared what God had done, and they told others, hey, why don't you come experience what I experienced? I pray that for everyone in here, tonight would be their night. They'd get involved in community, walls would be broken down, great discussion would happen, and they would see the value of it. I also pray for anyone in here who they know, right now, they know they've never accepted Jesus. They've been playing church, they've been playing religion, or they've just been trying to just pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, and they seem to not be able to do it. God, you are the one who can literally redeem all the brokenness in our life, and I pray that you would do that in someone's heart tonight.